So, what we are going to do today is do a quick review of the roots of government, because that's important and I want you to really remember it. And the second thing we're going to do is talk about Bacon's rebellion, not actual bacon, though that'd be kind of fun. And then, lastly, we're going to mention salutary neglect. So, first, let's start off with a review. Perhaps I will do this in song form. The Magna Carta limited the power of the king, and John Locke unalienable rights for you and me, and also the consent of the governed. We gotta agree. Roots of representative government. Don't forget Blackstone. He said we govern ourselves, and the English Bill of Rights for individuals. And don't forget Montesquieu said separate the powers. That's why we have 3 branches of government. That's pretty good, right? I would keep it in song form. By the way, that was freestyle. Pretty good. But I can't think of anything that really rhymes or even has a rhythm to these 3. But you gotta remember them anyway. Quick review. Mayflower Compact, first social contract, which promoted majority rule. Mayflower Compact, first social contract in the United States, promotes majority rule. Second, Fundamental Orders of Connecticut. Remember our friend with the funny name, Thomas Hooker? He's the one who instituted that. That's the first written constitution. Okay, remember, Mayflower Compact, first social contract. Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, first written constitution. Last but not least, the Virginia House of Burgesses, the first representative assembly in the United States. So don't forget that. There's even like funny little pictures. Look at the little pilgrims. Can you see them? Hold on. Pilgrims! Yay! Pilgrims! Okay. So the next thing that you're going to hear about, speaking of the Virginia House of Burgesses, first representative assembly, is gonna have something to do with them, but Charles is gonna talk about this next part because it's one of his favorite things in history. So Charles, why don't you tell the class a little bit about Bacon's rebellion, because Charles loves Bacon's and rebellions. Hello little chaps. So what we're gonna learn today is Bacon's rebellion. I like this camera. I want to stop it. Charles, it's kind of narcissistic, sorry. Okay, so Bacon's rebellion was this chap named Nathaniel Bacon was a very, very poor man, and he was living in the colony of Jamestown. Remember Jamestown the settlement of Jamestown in the colony of Virginia. And in 1676, he got very upset. Well, he'd probably been upset for a long time, but the point is, in 1676, he decided to do something about it. You see, he was very upset at Governor William Berkeley, who was the governor of Jamestown. Now, the reason he was so upset is, like I said, he was poor. He was poor. And he did not own any land. And back then, if you didn't own any land, you had a big problem. So, he looked over the fence at Jamestown and saw all of this land just ready for the taking. But Governor Berkeley did not want to take that land because it belonged to Native Americans, and the last thing that he wanted to do was make any Native Americans upset, because Jamestown had already had a really rough time. Remember the starving time, where 40 out of 600 colonists die? Write that down if you don't remember the starving time. Starving time. I'm not very starving. Actually, I am. Can we get lunch after this? That's fine. Okay, anyway, so, back to our friend. His name was Nathaniel Bacon, aka Bacon's Rebellion, and he rebelled against Governor William Berkeley. He rebelled because Governor William Berkeley said, "No, I don't want you to take that land on the other side of the Jamestown fence, because it belongs to Native Americans, and ain't nobody got time to be in a fight with them." So Nathaniel Bacon was upset. He wanted to take some of that land that he just saw was there, just ready, waiting, wild. He wanted it to make some money for himself, to grow some tobacco, which, remember, was a cash crop that saved America, very important to the colonies, and to Virginia in particular. So, still, though, William Berkeley said no, and so Nathaniel Bacon got a group of followers who had already been complaining against the governor about things like high taxes and his favoritism towards the rich and the large plantation owners. So Bacon demanded that Governor Berkeley approve a war against the Native Americans to take the land. He wanted to take it, but Governor William Berkeley said no. No, 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 no. Okay, Charles, calm down. Sorry. Okay, so Governor William Berkeley said no. You cannot. I will not approve a war with Native Americans. I don't want to mess with them to take that land. So what did Bacon do? Well, he was kind of crazy, I think. He burned Jamestown to the ground and marched on to the sort of Capitol building-ish they had there and just burned pretty much the entirety of Jamestown to the ground. He also, shortly after, got really sick and died. So poor Mr. Bacon, he had a kind of a rough time there. But anyway, the point of Bacon's rebellion is, P.S., all of his followers were hanged after he died. Yes, it's bad. Don't ever follow Bacon. Don't follow Bacon, no matter how good it smells. Okay, anyway, so after this, the British, all the way on the other side of the ocean, they get word of this, and so they fire the governor, William Berkeley, and the Virginia House of Burgesses, remember them? Where's your little paper? Here it is, Charles. Okay, the Virginia House of Burgesses, remember the first representative assembly in the United States? These guys, they actually, after Bacon's rebellion, they pass a law essentially saying that a royal governor cannot ever assume that kind of power. So never again can a royal governor just decide not to have a war and it not happen. Because pretty much the only reason Nathaniel Bacon rebelled in the first place was because he was upset at this one governor. So the Virginia House of Burgesses passes this law and it goes into effect. And the reason Bacon's rebellion is important is because it shows that this assembly, this first representative assembly, actually has power. So there's Bacon's rebellion. Boy, I love you. Give me a hug. Charles, stop it. You're being so weird. Sorry, it's a little freaky right now. Anyway, so we did a quick review of the government stuff. We talked about Bacon's rebellion. The last thing we're going to mention is salutary neglect. Now, salutary neglect is spelled S-A-L-U-T-A-R-Y, and then neglect, N-E-G-L-E-C-T. So what happened is Parliament all across the ocean from the colonies would pass laws that would then have to be enacted by the colonies in America. But by the time the law got there, and, because obviously America was under the control of the British, but by the time the law got there, it was, especially if it was unpopular, some of the governors decided not to put that law in place. Because if it was a law that the people living in the colonies didn't like, then they would opt not to pay the salary of the governor. Things like that. So the governors got smart. They were like, I don't think I'm going to listen to this rule by Parliament because I don't want these colonists here to be mad at me. And I mean, think about it. Would you rather have the colonists you have to deal with every single day upset at you and not wanting to pay your salary? Or would you rather have the people who won't hear about it for 8 to 10 months and are 3,000 miles away to be upset about you? At you. See what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't know about this. So the reason this is important is because the colonists eventually get used to acting on their own without government interference. So as British Parliament tries to tighten their control by sending troops over eventually and by taking away their free enterprise, remember what that means? Business without any government interference. Once the British starts to do that, they get very upset because they got so used to living without any rule from Parliament. And it even gets to the point where in colonial newspapers, for example, there's a man named John Peter Zenger. Anyway, he posted a criticism of the New York governor in a popular newspaper, and the jury actually decided in his favor. They said that people had a right to speak the truth. People had a right to freedom of the press. The press refers to anything in the media, so not just newspapers, but back then that's pretty much all it was. But from this point, with John Zenger going to trial for printing something bad about the governor, we really see a big shift in the way the colonists think. Because now, because of salutary neglect, we have like freedom of like to live our lives, to do our businesses the way we want to without any British interference. And then, because of the result of the trial of John Peter Zenger, we can print whatever we want. What? And then, thanks to Bacon's Rebellion, the House of Burgesses actually has power, not just Parliament in England. What? So all of this freedom, they get used to it. So when the British tries to, boom, put the hammer down, bad news bears, American Revolution. Spoiler alert. Anyway, hope you took good notes. Get ready for your quiz. I'll see you next time.